Well, howdy everybody. Welcome back to the shop. Appreciate you stopping by. As you can see today, we've got the South Bend 9A gearbox, all its associated parts, all cleaned up and painted, and we're ready to put this baby back together. Before I get started on this though, I want to show you some pretty intricate things you need to pay attention to on this. The oiling system of this gearbox is quite unique. There should be a Gets oiler in this hole here. It didn't have one, it just had a plug in it. But you keep this filled with oil, and if you look underneath here, I hope this shows up on camera, there's what they call the oil gallery right here. It's just a little trough in the casting. They've drilled through from this end here through the casting. It holds oil and it slowly drains and drips the oil down into all the bearing surfaces. And if you can see here, there's a little channel here in the casting, another one here going to these bearings here. And if you look on the outside here, you can see one coming from this bearing down to this bearing. And over on this side here, in the middle bearing here, there's a hole that's drilled through this hole here all the way through to the gallery. And they've drilled the bushing to get oil down into the bushing. And then at this end, again, you have some channels inside going to oil this bearing and this one. And again, there's a channel drilled. I don't know how well this hole is going to show up. Hole here that drills down into this bearing so the oil flows down from here to here. Let me stick some pipe cleaners in there and kind of show you what I'm talking about. They're nice and white and you can see them. And there's a hole here that goes through this channel up into the oil gallery, and I think you can see it if I get that holding just right, that moving inside the gallery there. And then there's this channel here that goes from this bearing, drops the oil down to that bearing. And one right here from this bearing back up also into the oil gallery. Hopefully you can see that in there moving around. That's on this end. On this end you really can't see them, but there's a hole right there. Goes into the oil gallery. One right there that goes into the oil gallery. And then a hole here from this bearing to this bearing through the bushing. Let me flip that over and get a clean part in there. Thought I had those cleaned out, but apparently not good enough. There we go, see that a little better. So that's how the oil flows down from this upper part. So you only have to add the oil into one spot and it flows all the way down through all those holes. I have to excuse my sniffly nose here. I'm a bit under the weather. I've been fighting a sinus infection all week. I'm on the mend though. These keyways, they're not keyways that key into the shaft. These actually hold felts. They might more technically be called a felt way, since you put lubricating felts in there to hold that oil to spread it around onto the shaft and through the bearing. And those holes going through the oil gallery are through where those felt goes, so the oil drips down onto the felt and then the felt can spread the oil out along. I also forgot to show you this one here. Goes down through that guy. Doesn't want to go though. Something's plugging that off. I do have to put a plug in there, oil plug, to keep the oil from dripping out though. They tell you when you put in a new bushing, which I have not done, I'm keeping the old bushings. When you put a new bushing in here, to drill through this hole, which will line you up with the hole down here. Don't know how well that's going to show up. That goes down here into the oil gallery. Anyway, things to be aware of when you're putting this back together. So there's that. We need to put a few felt plugs in to keep oil from running out, and I need to put the felt in these keyways. There's another one to help lubricate them a little better. So I'm going to do that and I'll be right back. Okay, I put most of the felts in, but I left two out because I want to show you something here. This was originally from South Bend, just a push-in plug. I drilled it out. I tapped this 5/16 18. I'm going to put this little plug in here. I've got it wrapped up in Teflon so it doesn't leak. But one of the things I need to make sure I do, or don't do actually, is block the oil passage to this way and this way, because those holes for these two are real close to the end of that gallery right there. So I'm going to stick this down in there. And those look like they're both right those two holes, that one's about the closest one to the edge. So I'm going to put this in and make sure I don't block that hole. As long as I can keep moving this, I know I'm not hitting it. I've wrapped that plug in Teflon to hopefully slow down some leaking. We're good there. That takes care of that part. Now I can put those oil felts back in here. And this wasn't all that easy because I had to stretch them a little bit to get them to fit down in there good. And then I cut them without thinking that I was stopping or getting in my own way there for putting that plug in, but I think I can lay those back down in there pretty nicely. It should stay in there when I go to put the shaft in. Put this one in, and then we're ready to start assembling. This felt kit that I bought came with two different size felts here because they say in their little instructions that at times South Bend over cut these feltways. So they give you a small felt and a large felt in case you got a bigger feltway, and both mine were they're taking the small ones, so I don't know if that's good or bad. But something to be aware of when you're doing yours, which I hope someday you do get the opportunity to rebuild them, a South Bend lathe. It is a lot of fun, and now that I'm getting close to the end of this project, I am really looking forward to starting to make stuff and make some metal chips and in general make a mess and show you guys what a foolish machinist I can be. Alright, there we go. It's time to start putting stuff back together. Alright, we're ready to put the gear shaft back in. I already did this once, thought I had the camera on, it was off, so I've taken it back apart to show you how it goes. These are the parts right here we're going to use right now, we're putting back in. These two gears, you might be wondering, well, which way do they go? Sometimes there's little telltales that'll tell you which way they go. On this particular gearbox, this gear, you can see is keyed. It keys to the shaft right there. This gear is free spinning on the shaft. So you're going to know that because this is such a short key, that's going to be the first gear on there. So, doggone it. So those gears go in there like so. And pick up the shaft I just dropped. That's not good to do. I've already put a wick in here in the slot cut for it. And I have marked the end of my shaft with a little black marker pin to tell me that that's the upper side, or the larger side of this taper pin hole. So I can look down in here when I'm lining it up with the collar to put the taper pin back in. I also know that this key is just a little ways off. Oh, looking at it here, show it for you guys. It's about 1 o'clock off of the 12 o'clock of the shaft, so when I go to put this on to line up this key with that keyway, we can look at that and know to turn it just a little bit. I've also taken and marked with a black marker. You see the keyway there. I've marked this top of this tooth with a black magic marker. Probably should have done it in a different color because that's kind of hard to see, but when I get the light just right, I can see it. Okay, let's put it together. It's pretty easy, but the main thing you want to watch out for is that you don't curl up your wicks. You want those to be down on there real good. Stay where they belong. I'm into the one in the boss here, which is good, but this one here sticks up just a little bit, so I'm going to hold it down while I start sliding this guy on there. Okay, I'm hitting that key now. So I'm going to turn that black mark to about 12 o'clock. Now I'm going to turn it back to 11 so that I know that that key is facing pretty much straight up, and I just got to find my one that's marked here, and I can feel I'm catching on that wick. I'm rolling, that wick's come out on me. I can feel it. It doesn't look too bad. Punch it back down in that hole again. I put a little bit of oil in there on those to help them hold up good. I think I'll try it this way this time. Well, I got to make sure I get that wick going in there. Alright, there's my black marked tooth. There it is. There we go. That was nice. Now on this boss that this taper pin goes in, I don't know how well you can see it, but this hole is not exactly in the center of the boss this direction. So this boss only goes on one way. If you get it on backwards, those holes are not going to line up. Tap that in there just a little bit. Lock that on there. Okay. There we go. And this one free spins the way it's supposed to, and not a lot of back and forth play. I'm happy with that. On to the next one. Okay, the central shaft with the gear tree is next, and this is the fun one. A couple of the preliminary things that I have done. If you remember, this tapered pin goes through this middle gear, through this shaft, and that is what holds this shaft in place to keep it from moving around in and out. These gears stack real tight to either boss on either side of the gearbox. So number one, I've marked the larger diameter hole again at the end of the shaft so I can just look and see to line it up. And I've also done the same thing here on the gear. I put a black mark so I know that that's the larger diameter hole. It just makes it easier when you're putting it all together. I've already got the wick in here. This one should prove interesting with all the gears I've got to slide over it. Hopefully it'll go. Let's put a little type B oil on there. to give it some lube. Oh, I'm going to put some gear oil on that feltway wick. I think sometimes that gear oil, putting that oil in there, helps swell the wick up a little bit to stay in place. One thing I didn't realize when I took this apart was that part of this gear tree, as they call it, and it kind of reminds you of a little bit of a Christmas tree. And I'm just going to leave all these laying right here while I pull this wire out of my way, so I know the order they go in and I don't flip them around backwards. But these gears that are part of the gear tree, along with being keyed to the shaft, also have a hole in them that a dowel pin goes in there to keep them in alignment. So you got to put that in as you're going also. So we're just going to start going right down here in order. I think what I'm going to do, go ahead and put that dowel pin in there. And just line them up and put them in on that dowel pin as I go. See, my felt started bunching up there, and I kind of felt it going on that last one a little bit. There we go. And that is the last one that has the dowel pin. This one just has a little recess in there that the dowel pin hooks on. So let's push this through a little bit farther so we can start getting that key lined up on those guys. Alright, there we go with one. There's two, pin in. Okay, well, I went a little too far, I guess. Now I can't get the other gears on there. Should have looked at that, and I didn't. Well, let's tap that back out a little ways. Just put a wooden dowel in here and tap on that lightly. Just give me enough clearance right here to get the gears on there. Come on now. And these ones don't line up with the dowel pin, so I'm going to put a mark on that top tooth where the keyway is, and it actually is right between those two. Little things you don't see until you really get going. And that keyway actually lines up with the felt, so when I get this in farther, we should be pretty good. Let's do this again. This one's just a little bit off, but still between those two, so we'll mark it. Hey, come on now. Come on now. And this is a free spinning wheel. It doesn't sit on the keyway. But remember, it's pinned into the shaft, so that, and then we're bunching up. See, my felt's missing there. I kind of felt that happening, and I just lost some of it. See how it's pulled out? This can be a bit of a chore here, guys. And there was a hole in this shaft that I had pushed that down into to hopefully keep it down in there. It's right there. Guess I just didn't get enough down in there. I think where it caught, it bunched up when it hit the pinhole, so I'm going to have it not lined up on that this time. Yeah, that's looking good there. Okay, I got to tap that out a little more. These are the things you learn when you've never done this before. You got to keep a good sense of humor about you, or you'll probably go insane. Doesn't Jimmy Buffett say that, I think, in one of his songs? Still not quite enough. If we weren't all crazy, we would go insane, I believe is the line. Don't ask me the song off the top of my head because I can't recall it. Doesn't matter. There we go. That in there. Come on now. Anybody got a suggestion? This one looks difficult to get that puppy lined up just right. So we can't slide this dowel into that gear. Oh, I think I got it. Looking to make sure my felt's still there. It's still in the channel. That's good. Sometimes I can't tell if I'm pushing that shaft in there farther, or if I'm just moving these gears back and forth. Come on, baby. I know it's close. I can feel it. Oh, it is. I can see it right there. Okay. So now we just got to get those engaged. There we are. There it is. Woohoo! And it's got to go in a little farther though. Okay, now try to turn this shaft. That'd be easy to do. Just grab the gears that you know are keyed into it. I'm putting my mark straight up and down, and there's that. There it is, right there, gents. Holy moly! I just don't like that gap right there. Oh! Oh, wouldn't you know it? Oh, I left one out. Doggone me. All that work and now I got to start over again. Hey, that's the way it goes. It's part of doing this kind of stuff. And that taper pin is so loose it fell too far out. Okay. Oh, what was that I was just saying a little bit ago? We weren't all crazy, we would go insane. Yeah. Or how's that old saying go? If at first you don't succeed, try again. Yeah, we're going to try again. Make sure I put these all back in the order they come out on. I got to knock that in just a little bit farther. There we go. Okay. You two. As I'm taking these off, I'm putting them down so that when I pick it up, it's going to be the proper direction. There's the pin. So I know this one goes next. Right over the felt. There we go. So that goes on there just like so. Same way, and my felt is starting to lift a little bit. You know, I thought that was too easy. Just didn't think it was supposed to be that easy. Okay, well, we got the gear tree in, as you can see. I'm not completely happy with it, but this one spins nice and freely and easily. But the gear tree here on the shaft, and I am turning the whole shaft with that, that's pretty tight. And I don't think it should be tight like that. So I'm hoping that'll wear in. I'm hoping that maybe what it is that when I painted this, I got some paint on the boss down here between this gear, and I didn't get it cleaned all the way off, and that's what's making it tight. And if that's it, it'll wear in good. I thought I cleaned them off, but I could have missed that one, so I'm hoping that's what it is. I've glued up the felt here real good to get some grease on that bushing. Same here. I've been squirting some grease in there and working this shaft around with a strap wrench to not damage the gears, but still got a tight spot. Although I can turn it by hand. There's that tight spot right there. I just don't think that's right, but I'm going to go with it and hope it hopefully it'll get broke in and worn in. So now onto the tumblers and the tumbler shaft, and that'll complete the gearbox with the exception of putting the lead screw in. I've already put this tumbler back together. I'll show you on this other one how it goes. One thing to remember, this boss here on the tumbler casting goes to the outside, so these actually sit, well, let me turn them the way they go inside the gearbox. They actually sit in there thusly, and you want the big gear, or the gear, to be to the center line, this here being this part here being the center line. So this one, when I put it in, will have to go that way and not that way. But just remember that that boss on the outside on the casting goes to the outside, and these two machine surfaces meet together. Well, I don't know if they actually meet when they're engaged, but that's what they're there for. So let's put this one in. These needle bearings in here are in really good shape. They look really good. So I'm just going to go with them the way they are. Big gear there. To the center. Oh, wrong spot. Down here. There we go. Now, it was recommended that you do all this with a press. Unfortunately, I don't have one, and that other pin went in that first side real easily. Well, there's a little paint in there. Take this little round needle file and get it out of there. Thought I went through and cleaned all these up, but it's easy to miss stuff. Try to be as careful as possible when you're painting, but sometimes that stuff just gets away from you. Make sure that side's good. There's a little spot right there. There we go. It's amazing, you know, you don't think paint's that thick, but you'd be surprised how thick it is. In fact, if you want to learn something about thicknesses of stuff, there's a machinist here on YouTube, Ox Tool Co. He's out in California in the San Francisco Bay Area. He works at Lawrence Livermore Laboratories in Livermore, which is commonly referred to as America's machine shop and machinist laboratory. And you want to talk about some high-tech machines out there, they've got it. Check out his videos, Ox Tool Co, O-X-T-O-O-L-C-O. He's got a video he did where he's actually got a little dial indicator that he measures the thickness of the ink of a Sharpie pen. He compares the red and the blue, or the black and the blue, and then he also measures the thickness of Dykem. And that's pretty amazing to have a little measuring instrument that'll measure that fine. So I'm going to try to get this started and use my version of a press, which I admit isn't the greatest, but it works. There we go. Yep, there she's going in. Okay, center, big gear to center. Put that in there. Okay, now my version of a press. Just a Jorgensen pipe clamp, or I mean a bar clamp. But it does work. Get it lined up nicely, and it presses that right in there. Now, one thing I do need to make sure that this shaft is not sticking up above this surface, and right now it kind of is. Just barely. So I'm just going to take a punch and tap it down just a little bit. Doesn't matter if it's sticking out over strong on proud on this side, but here in the center You don't want it sticking out. It doesn't feel like it is now. Okay, so our tumblers are ready to go. Let's get our gearbox back over here in the center. I've got some oil already down here on the felt way inside this side. Make sure it stays in there and doesn't get, oh, it's squeezing that oil right out of there. Now these gears have two keys on them, and there's a keyways on this shaft that are opposing each other, so you want to make sure you get that lined up properly. Here we go, there's one. And remember, when we took this apart, because of these keyways, this shaft only comes out one way because these keys aren't cut clear through. Alright, that wasn't so bad. Now, right on the very end of this shaft, we want to put some felt about 1 inch long or so in both sides of this. It'll help lubricate this boss over here. And the felt they told me to use in the book just seems just a little big. Trying to stretch it to get it down in there, but it doesn't really want to stretch very well. And stay down in there. There we go. I might have a little much hanging out here, but I'm going to turn these off so I can see both sides. Well, this one came out. The one stayed in, but that one came out. Let's see if I can slide that guy in there. And he came out. I'm going to try pushing it in from the other end. Might work a little better. I probably cut these a little long. It says just about 1 inch long. I just kind of eyeballed it, but we'll get it in there and we'll cut off the excess. There, I see it coming through there. Good. Alright, then on this guy, this pin just goes down through there. And I guess I should have showed it to you before I did it, but not. There was a groove in this end of the shaft that this pin just rides in. And I get that just right, and I can see light all the way through there. Here we go. That lets that shaft spin. Yeah, it's engaging that gearing. That one's engaging that gearing. Yes. Everything looks like it lines up pretty good. Alright. Well, the next thing to do, and the last thing to do, is to put this guy back in. And you notice that the number of notches should correspond with the number of holes. So that's the way that guy goes in. And there was just 2 screws holding it in place. Oops, I think I got it upside down. I do. There we go. That's the way it goes. Nope. That's the way it goes. Alright, those notches engage. I don't know what those little bars were on the bottom of the tumbler. I'll point that out to you here in a second. Oh, come on now. Now, where'd you go? Can you believe that? My luck, a loose screw. There it is. Gets caught in there. See if I can point this out to you. Get this right. There's a little machined bar right here on the inside of the tumbler, and that's what fits these notches. For helping to get those lined up right, instead of just relying on the pin in the hole. Alrighty. You know, these aren't always supposed to be the easiest to engage. I'm trying to get it to engage on this upper hole, so we'll see if it'll make sure it'll swing in there correctly. There it goes. There it went. And that's going to be tough to get engaging with that gear tree being so tight right now. Which one did I have that? I think I had it in the second one. There we are. Maybe not. There it went. There it goes. excuse me. There's the, there it is. Now all we have left to do is to put the lead screw in through here. This gear engages the biggest gear on the gear tree. Those two nuts, jam nuts, to hold it on there. And then we can mount it in place. One thing I do want to point out to you though, I took off the plate here and I played around with it. I saw a couple of different guys, and I'm sorry I didn't get both their names. I know one of them, but I'm not going to mention either one of them since I can't mention the other guy's name. On YouTube, they've got videos on how to restore these plates. All the lettering on these plates, these are embossed plates, so all this lettering is raised. And what I did was I just spray painted it. I found a can of blue paint. It's all I had in spray paint. It's a different color blue, but it doesn't matter. I didn't think it was going to work because my plate's pretty rough and beat up, and you can see where it was dinged up. So after I painted it solid blue, I put a piece of wet or dry sandpaper down on my surface plate, turned this upside down, put a block of wood on here to hold it, and kind of sanded it to try to just sand off the higher embossed areas. But because this plate is so beat up, it sanded off a lot of other areas also, so it didn't turn out looking very good. It's kind of ugly. I'm not going to put it back on. You can buy these on eBay. I think they're currently around $40, $41, $42, something like that. So I think I'll tell the missus this is what I want for Christmas, is one of these new plates. And there's her brass, because this is a wartime lathe. This is aluminum, I think, or just a very soft metal. And but the new ones on eBay are brass with red background paint, and it really shows through and looks really good. I was going to use red paint on this, but I didn't have a can of red spray paint when I was playing around with it. So, but I didn't think it was going to work anyway because I could tell it was all beat up. So there's that. There it is, guys. How to put together one of these gearboxes. It's not difficult, but it can be a little trying at times. And it's a slick little item. I'm not going to lie to you. I'm impressed. I'm impressed with how easy it is to work on, to do, but also the mechanisms. I mean, the guy that invented this and came up with this is a hell of a lot smarter than I am. And a lot smarter than I'll ever be. So anyway, next video, I'll be mounting this on the lathe, hooking up the gear train, and hopefully firing this puppy up and making some chips real soon. So in the meantime, have a great day, and we'll see you real soon. Bye-bye.